Goddard Sedge. Step 1.
For this fly, we're going to use a number 8 2X long dry fly hook and some tan monocord. And the thread is very important in this fly because we're going to be spinning deer hair, so you want that little bit stronger thread. And again, a good base is important.
Step 2.
Now, seeing that the whole body of this fly is made out of deer hair, you want to select a nice hollow deer hair.
How can you tell a good hollow deer hair? Is there a difference between the parts of the animal?
Yeah, the sides of the deer or the belly is usually quite a bit more hollow, or the back end of it. And you want it. It'll look a little bit thicker and a little bit crinkly, and that'll usually let you know that it's a more hollow, easier to spin deer hair. Now here you want to tie in with the butts facing the tail end of the fly. And you want to leave a good length here because it's going to be an extension of the body of the fly. And it's going to get, when you start spinning, a couple loose loops and then pull tight, it's going to get caught around the hook gap, but that's all right. You just want to pick it out either with your fingers or some sort of tool. Now normally we'd wrap towards the bend of the hook, but we're not going to here because we want the hair to stay fairly straight out the back. We're just going to work our way towards the eye. Use your thumb and your both thumbs and forefinger to compress the hair.
Step 3.
And here we're going to go in with another clump, already combed out, of all its under fur, tied in, butt first again, and spin that around. And this time we're going to work towards the gap of the hook and then back through it again towards the eye. Always kind of twisting and wiggling your thread to make sure you get right down to the hook shank.
So you're slipping your thread in between the hairs?
Yeah, exactly. And use my thumb and forefinger again to compress the hair. You want a nice tightly packed fly, and that's the only way to do it. There's also tools to do that, but your fingers work fine.
Step 4.
We're going to add one more clump of hair that's already been combed. Spin it on just to get a nice tight body.
I noticed that you've been laying them in with about the same amount of distance heading back towards the gap of the hook. Is that about half the wing that you've already laid in there?
The total amount of body of this fly is going to be probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the length of the hook shank. And leaving that space at the front because there's going to be a hackle tied in there. We're going to stop the fly here and trim the hair. You're going to want to tie it off. That way the fly won't come undone while you're trimming it.
Step 5.
Now, this is the important part. We're going to trim the hair. Now, what we want to do is kind of work our way around the fly without trimming all the hair off. As you can see here, I've trimmed probably 2/3 of the body. Making sure the underside is flush. You're going to angle that remaining hair downward. You can see the body shape we're trying to achieve here.
Step 6.
Now that we've got this far, what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 saddle hackles or neck hackles and trim all the fibers off the butt end of it, of the feather. And these are going to be the antenna.
So you're using the thicker part of the
Yeah, I'm going to use
quill.
the thicker part, exactly. The thin part's not quite stiff enough and won't really show up. Now, these are really more cosmetic than anything. They tend to get in the way when you're casting, so...
Optional.
Optional, definitely. As a matter of fact, I usually trim them off myself. If you're to buy the fly already like this. If you're tying it yourself, I would probably just leave them out. You want to tie them in butt first. You can tie them in one at a time or side by side.
Step 7.
You can see how they are now. Leaving that space for the hackles that we're going to tie in. Now I've got two hackles to match a number 8 hook. I'm going to pull those off around the fibrous section of the feather, trim it off, and leave a bit of quill exposed so that we can tie it onto the hook.
I notice you use a very little amount of quill there hanging out the back.
Yeah, just enough to tie down and securely put it in place. There's no need to have a lot hanging out the end. I like to keep the materials trimmed nice and neat so that way there's not a lot to trim off afterwards.
Looked like the bottom of the feather was up again or towards you.
It is facing up, and that way the hackles angle in the right direction. So they'll help repel water. And always start from the back end of the fly and work towards the head with this hackle. That way there's no overlapping. And with 2 hackles, it should take probably 5 or 6 wraps to fill in that space, keeping the eye of the hook clean and clear of any fibers. You get all those and trim them away. See, there's a few in the bottom there. You want to try and either tie out of the way or trim with your scissors the best you can.
Step 8.
And then whip finish. Keep the antennas out of the whip finish. And that's pretty much it.
Would you glue the head?
That would be a good idea. It probably won't come apart, but it's always a good idea to glue the head. Trim away the odd few fibers. It's not really that necessary. This fly doesn't have to be that neat. There you have it. It's an excellent larger sedge pattern, or a stone fly.